Here's what I want to know. I want to know what a Valentine's Day is like for Antonio.
Well, first you forget. Well, I wanted to do a little bit more, so we went to eat, and then I was like, okay, now let's do something as the Fille de Resistance. So I was like, let's go to a comedy club, or let's, go to, play darts somewhere, like something, right? Some activity. And then I turned to my wife, and we were getting ready to leave the dinner, and I said, how about we go and buy a tub of ice cream, eat it, and watch a true crime documentary, and we'll sit on the couch. And she starts to cry. She goes, yes, 1,000 times yes.
Mega Dads Live is a mature-rated podcast. It's for the Mega Dads, the Mega Moms, but not the Mega Kids. So put on those earmuffs and let's go!
So it's hard because, it's hard to like do secret stuff for your partner when you're like living close proximity, you have kids. You can't just like run out and like do something, buy something, plan something. There's budgets involved, timelines, etc. So like my wife is just like, I'll be right back. I'm going to get some stuff for something. And just like, get some chocolates and a nice card and stuff.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So I tried to go with the experience route this time and was just like, let's go on a nice date. So we went and, we had some salmon and some rigatoni alla vodka like stuff.
You went out on Valentine's Day?
I went out. Yeah.
Holy
well, not on the
shit.
Valentine's Day, but day after.
Okay.
Because we had like an emergency go on, like that kind of derailed us for a couple days. But we, that's the best that I can do these days. Like, is I'll take you out to eat and have a nice date and stuff. But that's it. Like, I wish
That's the best. Honestly.
I wish I was romantic. I wish I was more romantic in my later years. I used to be, really gung ho, like. Million flowers or whatever that we was gonna go on, but it's harder as you get older to keep the flame alive. How do you keep the spark going, Adam?
I think, first of all, what you did is like the best way to do it, because as you get older, you realize that experiences are so much better than any kind of gift, unless it's a video game. But like, for a birthday, I would so much rather somebody gift me an experience than a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have less and less need for things and more appreciation for moments the older I get. So, I mean, shit, being in my 40s with 2 kids, and we're like, we never get an opportunity to do anything like just as a couple. So that would have been amazing. If you were my Valentine, I would have been very happy. The more into the middle age era you get, the more you want to do just like the thing that is comfort, right?
Yeah.
It's not let's do the most exciting thing. It's let's do the thing with the least amount of effort, which is exactly what we ended up doing, because like that's how we roll. In my house, it was, we've been on a budget. We've hit this like hard line where it's like, we need to tighten these screws and get back in line. And so we had decided we weren't going to do anything at all. And so my wife made homemade pizza with the kids and made it in the heart shape, the whole thing. But like for me, I picked up the kids, and Valentine's Day fell on Elliot's karate night. And I said to the kids, I'm like, we're gonna skip karate, which of course was super exciting for Elliot.
Whoa.
And I'm like, we're gonna go to the grocery store. We're gonna pick up some stuff for dinner tonight. And then we'll head back. And so we went into the grocery store, and of course the entryway is like nothing but flowers and balloons and like men in their last minute on the way home get your Valentine's Day stuff. So we picked up a card, and we found this cheap little plastic individual rose, right?
Oh wow.
Not like a real flower. My son picks it up and he's like, Dad, this is just like The Bachelor.
Oh.
And I said, you're right. And my daughter was like, Dad, we need to have a rose ceremony tonight.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so we bought this cheap little flower to bring home, and we got I got her a card and all that stuff, and we ended up eating this heart-shaped pizza, watching The Bachelor, and then as a family we had a rose ceremony in our living room, and it was just first of all, it's sad that my kids know so much about The Bachelor, but second of all, it was just such a cute this is what my wife would have wanted, right? To just sit and watch The Bachelor with the family, and that's exactly what we did. And it was it cost almost no money, and it was a funny memory that we'll remember when the kids stood in front of the TV and acted out a rose ceremony.
That is so romantic. Look at
yeah,
that.
And then we all got in the hot tub and got herpes.
There you go. Speaking of, getting older and things changing, it brings us to our quick question.
Quick question.
Our listeners, we want you to get to know us. We get to know you, and to just reveal more and more about our lives slowly and surely. And one thing that I've been thinking about lately is death, and how we're on the train. The train goes one way down the tracks. You know how it goes. And I was thinking a lot about this lately, and about if I had to choose, what would my last meal be? If I knew I was going to sit down, you could put whatever spin on it. Like maybe you're answering for your crimes and they're about to light you up in the electric chair or, gas chamber, whatever have you. But if you had to choose a last meal, what would you sit down and say, you know what? I'd like to eat this. I'd like to go out with a bang. Right. You know what your last meal would be? I was thinking about it for quite a while, and I came to the conclusion of a Belgian waffle. You ever have a Belgian waffle?
Yeah.
You like waffles?
Mm-hmm.
Just that vanilla taste, nice, warm, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. Overdo it with some butter, overdo it with some syrup, and just maybe I'm on a breakfast kick lately.
Breakfast for dinner, yeah.
Yeah, end of life, hey, it all goes out the window, and say, you know what? Let me get a nice Belgian waffle, a real big, just savory, sweet treat. That's what I'd go with, Adam. That's my last one.
My first question, I would have a question in response to the question. Sure, I'd be like, how am I dying? If I'm going to be executed in an electric chair, I'm going to want to eat something greasy so that my ass sizzles in the seat. So I'm going to eat a fuck ton of bacon, right? I'm going to give a show.
Right.
So I think I would cater my meal to my form of death. If I'm going to be hung, maybe I want to eat something super fattening, something super heavy so that I don't have to hang as long until I die.
So utilitarian till the end, Adam.
I just want to make my death an enjoyable experience for whoever it is that's watching, and a less sufferable one for myself. But if I'm going straight food, just what's the food that I want to enjoy for the last time? I am a big fan of Mexican cuisine.
Ooh,
so
I've heard of.
Get me a real authentic. It doesn't even matter what it is. Although I will say I don't like guacamole. So exclude the guacamole. But a nice quesadilla, burrito, chimichanga, anything like that.
Yeah.
But it has to be authentic. It has to be really, really good. And
Mexican
fresh.
Food's really good. I could attest.
Oh God.
Now, what if your last meal, and you're there and they're like, okay, here it is, and they get your order wrong. And
oh my God.
It's just like a plate of guacamole. Just what would you send it back? And they're like, I'm sorry, we're kind of out of time here.
I was saying we gotta roll.
Yeah, we gotta go. We can't send it back. Would that not be just the shittiest thing that could ever happen? Is they get your last meal?
There's nothing worse than getting. And you know what? This brings up something that I wanted to bring up. So we went out to eat last night. We went to, I don't know if you have these in Chicago. It's the Raising Cane's.
Chicken. There's only chicken there. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's very
never been there
niche.
before. And my kids both had a free kids meal there for they got like some sort of reward at school, academic achievement, enjoy a free kids meal. And so we walk in that place. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they only serve chicken, and it's only chicken fingers.
Yeah, weird.
So it's like you can get chicken fingers, you can get a lot of chicken fingers, you can get a kid-sized chicken fingers, or you can get a chicken sandwich, which is just chicken fingers in a bun.
Yeah. Very niche place, Raising Cane's.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird. And the chicken wasn't bad. I don't like their sauce.
Really?
I don't know what the deal is with their sauce. But I said to my wife, I'm like, this is like the perfect like entry-level position fast food job for a kid, because you cannot fuck up somebody's meal.
Yeah.
It's chicken
I'm
fingers.
sorry, I ordered the chicken. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, super weird. Well, let's get into our
Mega Dad's being super positive.
Our super positives. I'm feeling good. You're feeling good. But you know what? You know who else is feeling good?
No, don't fucking do it.
Do you know?
Don't fucking do it, Adam. Don't fucking do it.
Oh my God.
No! Jesus.
Look who's back in the studio
You had
from
to.
her 2-month-long bender south of the border in more ways than one. It's Mabel. Mabel, how was your Valentine's Day? Yeah. Yeah. That does sound like you need to leave the country for. I didn't know you could do that with chocolate. Like, doesn't that get infected? Yep. I guess if you got somebody to clean it out. Well, thank you, Mabel, for joining us. I'm so happy she's back. That's my super positive, is Mabel's returned.
My super positive was going to be that Mabel was finally gone.
Oh, shit. No.
Mabel,
Yeah.
you should tell the people closest to you how you really feel while you have the time. So Mabel, I hate you fucking with every ounce of my being.
You know, let's move on from that.
Sure.
Mabel's back. She's cleaning up the joint. I mean, you can't argue with the
It
fact
is
that
cleaner.
the
Yeah.
toilet has been cleaned for the first time in 3 months now.
Good.
But we got a lot to talk about, Antonio.
Yes, we do.
We're jumping
So much.
straight into the headlines to discuss the Xbox Business Update podcast.
Whoa.
There have been a lot of rumors, a lot of informants and insiders have been talking about the direction that Xbox is gonna go, and it got to be so loud and so noisy that the bigwigs themselves had to step out and make a formal statement. Why don't you take it from here, Mr. Xbox, and let our viewers and our listeners know, in case they missed it, what the Xbox Business Update podcast was all about?
So, high level, the rumor mill was exploding with the devolving or evolving rumors that Xbox was getting out of hardware altogether and that their games were going to go multi-platform. They had me convinced, just from hearing the rumors, that, you know what, this makes sense. Xbox is all about money. They're behind in hardware, underselling 2-1 against PlayStation, and it just seemed like a good move from a business standpoint. So they come out, and what they did is they actually hijacked the official Xbox podcast. So I didn't know this thing existed.
Neither did I.
If you go to the Xbox YouTube, it's like one of their primary things that they're putting out is Jeff Rubenstein, director of new platforms, and Tina Amini, director of Premiere Broadcast, host this thing. They sit down with developers. They talk in depth about games. Like, they have recent episodes about things like Avowed, and they go deep dive with it, or they just talk about the latest, greatest things that are out. And they talk games, and there's not a whole lot of. They sit down in a very relaxed, conversational way to talk about games, and here and there they'll put in product placement ads like say, oh, and by the way, Xbox is coming out with this new controller, you can get it starting, this time. So it's like something we would do on the outside as commentators and fans of the industry, but with that real like inside track. So they're sitting down with the actual devs. They're sprinkling in, Xbox product placement. So it's an interesting thing. I didn't know it existed. So
Probably a good plug, because
yeah,
neither of us knew this thing was around.
it exists. What's interesting about the podcast that they do is like, because when this started, because I didn't go back and watch the previous episodes, I'm like, this is weird. They just go right into speaking is what they did, and they had Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, the other guy, I forget his name, and they had Tina there, and they just start talking, and I thought it was the oddest thing, and I'm like, this is what they do in the regular podcasts that they put out. There is no background music. There isn't a whole lot of, they just kind of say, hey, this is it, and we're here talking whatever, and they get right into it. So that's what happened. They hijacked it. This was impressive from a production standpoint, because, and a lot of people were confused by this. Not knowing the podcast existed, people are like, why is this podcast format? Like, why are they doing it this way? And in the end, people complaining this could have been an email, all these things. But long story short, they talked in a very conversational way and hit all the points of data they wanted to get out to set the record straight. And there were very few edits. Like, they have some B-roll of like Xbox marketing, just people smiling and playing games. But they practiced, they had a run of show, and they let people talk, and they said, okay, here's how we're going to connect, and have Tina come in and say, well, speaking of, now let's talk about hardware. Did you want to share anything about that? And this must have been so finely produced that it's hard to do what they did. Did you notice that at all? That just a conversational tone and getting all this information out there, but it didn't feel like robotic. It was odd.
I definitely got that taken away, where I was like, yeah, they ran through this shit. Like it was scripted, but not scripted. Like,
yes,
you could tell they were hitting exactly the bullets that they wanted to in the order that they wanted to. The questions tossed out were planned, right? Like, nothing was spontaneous, but it felt
yes
like it was loose enough where, like, you could tell this was PR spin. But
yes.
it like you said, it felt very just like they were just sunk in and just having a conversation. So,
and all that being said, you look at what happened, and they were in and out in like 20 minutes, and they hit like 6 key points talking about different things. And if you look at the YouTube video, they put like chapter markers that break up like the different segments. So the huge takeaway, last thing I'll say about like tone and delivery, I believe that Phil Spencer went in and said, the language here is going to be careful all around for everyone speaking. And I will not lie to these people. I will say what needs to be said and use careful language, that anything I say just will not be a lie. I have a feeling that this man's integrity is there, because the whole thing I'm thinking is, am I about to sit down and listen to a bunch of lies, right? Like, is this going to be PR speak out the wazoo and just a lot of like flashy language? And there was some really frank conversations that happened about the industry, where Xbox is going, like why people should play in the Xbox platform. Not a whole lot of like crazy promises. It was just interesting. So
I thought it was real quick. I thought it was really interesting on that point that a lot of what they spoke to about what you should be invested and care about in Xbox wasn't necessarily like, we have the best hardware, we have the best games. It was, we are creating a system, and we are creating a environment that fosters not only creativity, but is looking towards the health, not just of Xbox, but of the video game industry at large. Because they talked about layoffs, they talked about the fact that budgets are out of control, things like that. Like, we all can see the landscape of the video game industry and how
Yes.
it kind of seems to be buckling under its own weight. And the fact that Phil spoke so much about what Xbox is doing as a brand to help creators, I thought that was really an interesting
It's wild.
point of
Yeah.
conversation.
And we'll start there. Not this whole thing we're talking about now doesn't make the headlines in the recaps and everything when they talk about the Xbox platform in the industry. It's surprising because they didn't have to talk about this, but a few things that Phil had said was, we laid people off. And he says this out loud in this format that was closed where they didn't have to say that. And he's like, look, let me be real with all of you. The industry is having pains. And he's like, we've laid people off. It's not just exclusive to us. This is a thing. So they talk, like you said, a lot about the long-term health of Xbox means a growing platform. So he's like, look, we got to make money. He candidly says and uses the language saying, we have two choices. We can either figure out how to make more money off the players that we have, or we can grow the number of players and increase like the net of how many people are going to be playing. He didn't have to get into any of this, but it was just, I was shocked.
How do you feel that went over? Because my opinion is, if they don't have Phil delivering this message, this message doesn't go over at all. It's like a lead balloon, because for Microsoft to be saying, we need to make money or we got to fire people like that, no, you're fucking Microsoft. But Phil comes out there with his velvet tongue, right? Like, everybody loves Phil Spencer, and he had a way of taking the sting out, I guess, a little bit. If that makes sense.
I just see so much value in how I've always felt about this guy, that he's not going to lie to you. And this was truth. And you knew it was truth when he said it. And it all goes back to pointing to the why. So he's like, some people out there, they're going to be upset at these decisions we're making about going multi-platform with our games and all this. But he's like, look, we have to make money. It was just so candid and so true. And I don't know, like, it's weird because, and I don't know why, but he wants the gamers, who's the audience. He's like, everyone, listening to this podcast right now are like fans. And, I want you to know the why. And I want you to know that we have to, make these decisions for business purposes. And it was just wild that he was so candid. Candid is the name of the game. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go over. In fact, again, it doesn't make headlines in the end. A lot of people took away the other juicier tidbits, but this is what stuck out to me, is like, this is incredible. The other thing that they said was that they have data that people like to play across wherever that they can, across multiple screens. They enjoy playing cross save, cross platform. They know they want to, like you said, their value proposition is not, we will have the best exclusives, we will have the best hardware, although they did mention that. It wasn't the thing they were harping on, saying this is the place to play, period. They didn't make those promises. They said that we have a good ecosystem, basically, that is welcoming to people. It is convenient. It is
a good Xbox experience, not necessarily the Xbox.
Yeah, it's a good place for devs and creators. And they talked about how, you come to Xbox and you could release in early access, release in free to play, just be part of Game Pass, all these like things. And it wasn't just talking about the gamers, it was talking about just the platform that really the gamers may overlook. So it was just odd. They said that their goal was to get more people playing, period. And I thought that was interesting. They said, quote, we will use the other platforms to grow our franchises, which is like, they go through the logic. We'll talk about like, the juicier bits right now next, but it was just interesting how much they went behind the scenes, gave people information that gamers typically wouldn't like care about, but we're like, honestly, here's the why. I thought it was crazy. They didn't make a bunch of big promises, like they didn't use words like quadruple A or anything like that. They didn't say that. They never claimed that they were going to be releasing exclusives that were going to compete with PlayStation or anything like that. And that's what people, top level are expecting. Like, why? What about exclusives? And they just kind of gloss over it, and they say, well, we're going to have them, and that's it. So we'll get into, here's the juice. You want the juice?
Give me the juice.
4 games, only 4 games are coming to other platforms, and they're not changing their official exclusive strategy. They didn't say what the 4 games were. They said, they said we're doing this for reasons. They implied
that was
the
really
business.
interesting.
I mean,
like they're already out there pretty much. I mean, like,
yes,
kind of figured that they're out there. So like, why not tell them? But
well, Phil said that he wanted to give the fanfare, the planned marketing, to the teams, not steal their thunder. And it would be a shame if they just came out and said so. So, yeah, it was odd. They said it was not going to include Starfield or Indiana Jones. And then they said why. So, like, we already know that Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, a couple other ones are going to come out on other platforms. And they gave 2 reasons why. For something like Pentiment, again, they didn't name it specifically, but they said that this game's reached its potential already. And now it's time to make more money off of them by putting them on other platforms. And then with Sea of Thieves, they're like, well, a service game like this needs a healthy player base, so we're going to put it on other platforms to get more people playing. And in the end, some like string of logic is that it's possible that more people playing Xbox Game Studios games is going to pull people more toward Xbox is kind of what they implied. So what do you think about that? I mean, were you surprised that they weren't saying, okay, we're not getting rid of hardware, we're not having all of our games on, all platforms, just four, Adam.
It's interesting because by them saying that, it really is not a change to their strategy, because as I said in our Discord, like I was playing Minecraft Dungeons with my family the other night. First thing that my PlayStation boots up is the Xbox Studios logo.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of other, is Ori on Switch? There's something else.
Yeah, Ori
Xbox
was on Switch for a long time, I thought. Yeah.
So it's like, this is not a deviation from their strategy. So it's almost like it's a lot of to do about nothing if this is really what their plan was all along. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you put a game like Sea of Thieves on multiple platforms. You put a game like Hi-Fi Rush, which I absolutely will buy. That's like my number 1 Xbox game.
Beautiful
I feel like
game.
I've missed out on.
Fun game.
I've been so excited to play that. So when this was one of the rumored titles, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to play that. It makes all the sense in the world, especially if they're doing it in a way where it's like these have had their spotlight time on Xbox, so they push them to other platforms. And if you want the next new hotness, that ain't gonna be on PlayStation or Switch, at least for a while. If you want it right away, you know where to play.
You're right. They said these games have been out for a year. Most of I think they said most or all, and they were very, very detailed about what qualified what they were going to do and the reasonings behind it. In the end, I think this is going to be wildly successful, and that this is going to be where they kind of gravitate to, unless something changes with Xbox hitting it out of the park with exclusives, with everything that's coming out of these long overdue, like been baking games, but haven't released. I just don't see them. I see this as a first step, or not even, it's not a first step, we just said, as another step toward more and more going cross-platform and not being exclusive. That's just how I see it. It was just interesting that they're like, don't go crazy. It's not everything. It's not the biggest stuff yet.
Yeah, I'm glad that they said it's not Starfield. It's not Indiana Jones. Like, I'm glad that they did that, because I am a person that thinks there's tremendous value in exclusive titles. I think that each platform having their pinnacle, right? Like Nintendo's got its Zelda and its Mario, and I think you should be known for your showcases, right? And so I'm glad that they're gonna, while they are going to spread some, titles to other platforms and get people interested in their ecosystem, they should hold on to their flagships. They absolutely should.
From a gamer perspective, I agree, and I would want that. From a business perspective, you have to justify everything and look at growth and look at the business need, and it just doesn't add up financially too much, especially when you're not selling the consoles. You get skittish. I believe, and they didn't address this, one of the rumors going in was the CFO got spooked, and they're like, we're not selling the hardware, so what's going on here? And I believe that is the case. I think anyone can see it, that they're behind hardware. And we'll talk about hardware in a second. But one of the second points, the juice, is that Activision Blizzard games are coming to Game Pass soon, starting with Diablo 4. I think they said in May. I'm not sure. And then they said all Xbox Game Studio games, the first-party games, will continue to be on Game Pass, and that Game Pass will only be available on Xbox and nowhere else. So they touted 34 million Game Pass subscribers as of now, and that includes Core, which was formerly Xbox Live Gold. That includes just a fraction of the Game Pass games that are available. All of that was like the highlight for me as far as good news. They're like, guess what? Remember the Activision Blizzard stuff? It's coming to Game Pass. Diablo 4 is a good game. It could be better. I played it. I loved it when it came out. It burned out. It doesn't have like legs in the long term, in my opinion. Like these service games probably ideally should. But I thought that was great. Game Pass is still a value proposition. And this is what they came out and said. What'd you think about that?
I think that was a good way to, here's all the stuff that people might be mixed about, but here's something that everybody who's an Xbox is going to be excited about. This stuff is finally coming to Game Pass. That was pretty smart. That was very PR savvy. Like you said, this is a very well thought out and planned podcast, and they knew where they had to put in the good news, the pillow, the cushion, everything.
Game Pass is only available on Xbox, Adam. It's not going to be on Switch, not going to be available on PlayStation. What do you think?
I think that's smart. I think that's what they should do, because that is their killer.
That's their house. That is it. Yeah, Game Pass is the exclusive. It's one of the only things that is keeping, I mean, even me, if Game Pass was available on PlayStation tomorrow, what am I, like
there for
over? Yeah, it just seems like such a strong, back in the day, like the idea of all first party included in a service that is such a great value, for the price. It was unheard of. I remember first hearing about it. I'll never forget how blown away I was. And then they actually are sticking with it. Like having Activision Blizzard games just completely blows up the value even more. What's weird about this is it goes into this idea of playing on any screen, right? Any screen, but not like via a console, competing like console. It's weird because they have the data that says people are playing on their phone, tablet, laptop, whatever. That is what this all spells out to me. And they must have some data, not only that people are using it, but that they value it. And it's an interesting thing, and I think it points toward the future, and it may hint at what they're going for in the hardware space. One more thing, because they only touch on it. 2024 will see 10 major releases. More information at the Xbox June showcase. More to come, Adam. What do you think?
That's a lot. That's nuts.
10 in a year and it's already February. You do the math, carry the 2.
That's one a month going for the rest of the year.
They overlap, yeah. Some of it was like expansion. They talked about Avowed. They talked about, I forget what the expansion was, but more to come. Indiana Jones was one, obviously. I feel, and I've said this before, that at a certain point, because they had so much cooking, that they were going to cannibalize each other. Is this too much? One major game each month? PlayStation has crazily released a game like within 6 weeks of another one. What do you think?
I think with the amount of studios that they have under their umbrella now, like this just, like you said, this makes sense. This was inevitable. I mean, how many games from Activision were already, and Blizzard and all that stuff? Like they have so many publishers or developers under their umbrella, like that's inevitable. Whether or not that's good or bad for them, I don't know. I sure as hell can't play that many games.
Yeah, I mean,
but
who has the time?
Who's the time? But that's also
roll
the state of the
credits
industry.
every
I think
month.
that speaks to, like, broadly, that's kind of the unsustainable track that the industry is on right now. Is there's just too much. There's so much choice, and big games. I've said this for a long time. Big games don't have time to sit and be appreciated. It is one to the next, to the next, to the next. And Xbox has has that compounded because of the amount of people they have making games for them.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't know if that's
see.
good or bad.
I'm looking forward to June and hearing more. It seems like it's going to be a big year. Now, this was out of left field. I have no idea. I no idea what this. The Sarah Bond comes out and they talk about hardware, right? So Sarah Bond says, quote, "There's more to come. There's some exciting stuff coming out in hardware we're going to share this holiday. We're also invested in the next generation roadmap. What we're really focused on there is delivering the largest technical leap ever seen in a hardware generation." What the fuck? I'm over here saying they're not making big promises, and then all of a sudden they make like basically hardware announcements. What's going on, Adam?
This was probably the most nothing statement, I think, out of the whole thing. Is they said a lot without saying anything at all. More hardware stuff coming this holiday. There could be another iteration of the Slim or the Pro or whatever the hell. The next generation roadmap. Shit, everybody's saying that about. I mean, even PlayStation. Somebody on the PlayStation side said that the PS5 is entering like the latter half of its life cycle. I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody's getting ahead of themselves. I think it's a lot of nothing speak. Of course, they're going to make more. And of course, they're going to say it's going to be the best out there. I don't know that this really didn't do anything for me. It was a lot of PR.
I'm going to take the other side. Holy fuck, this is huge, okay?
Go for it. Hit it.
It's incredible. I'm so fucking hyped because I, over here on the rumor mill and just drinking the Kool-Aid and all this stuff, I'm thinking Xbox hardware is dead. I'm like, why would they keep making hardware? They're not selling it. Game Pass doesn't require it. You can just use other screens. Like, I think they're going to get out of it very soon. I'm not going to buy another Xbox because there's not going to be one available. They come out and they have to dispel these rumors that went so far to say that Xbox is getting out of hardware, and Sarah Bond's like, guess what? We're not. And we're going to have some hardware out this holiday. What is the hardware? Is it an iteration of the series, right? Is it an X Slim? Or is it not an X, not an S, but is it the streaming dongle thing that was rumored?
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Shown, and maybe they're finally going to hit the trigger on it and say, oh, guess what? It's a console, technically. It's hardware. You can put your hand on it. It's small, and it plugs into whatever screen you want, and it streams, and you could get near lag-free let's just say 1080p 30 frames, and that's it. But it's good enough, and it's going to sell like hotcakes, just like the Xbox Series S is outselling the X, because it's a slight, it's underpowered, but it's cheap and it's available, and you can play Fortnite on it, and that's all people care about according to the data. And this is going to be their focus. Is it that, or after everything, we have, I think Tom Warren is his name, from The Verge, like, is hinting at what this could possibly be and all this stuff. It's rumored that there's going to be an Xbox handheld, Adam. Another
Really?
rumor. The rumor mill starts exploding again, saying Xbox is looking into handheld. Could it be that they get into the handheld space as soon as this holiday? We don't know. Obviously, it's speculation. If there was an iteration of the X or S or whatever, I'd be interested. I'm sure it's going to be cheaper. I think we're all like knowing this isn't the next gen thing. There is a period and a space in between what she's saying. She's like, oh, this is hardware now, and the future next gen is, later. This is not the holiday announcement. So
do you think there's any chance that they would like partner with a Valve on like a Steam Deck that's got Game Pass baked into it? Because I would be shocked if Xbox had their own Xbox handheld, when, like you said, Game Pass is available on PC, and there's so many PC handhelds out there right now already. Like, would it be easier for them to just partner with somebody?
Is it difficult to create a handheld device that is primarily used for streaming? That, what do people want? Good battery life, ergonomic, that there's lots of games on it. The PlayStation just did this.
I was going to say, you think this is a Portal kind of thing?
It could be, and now nobody would blink an eye. It's the dumbest idea. Let me sell you a screen with controller handles. That's all you need these days, Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, will it actually have a chip that's intended to power it and run it natively without streaming? That's the other side of handhelds, right? It's like, what battery life and power compromise can we make compact enough to say that this is like a Steam Deck, where it's like a very powerful, it can run games on low settings, medium settings, and be a good enough experience. I don't know.
That's a fair point. I didn't really think about the Portal aspect of it. I mean, I don't
PlayStation
know.
Portal?
I don't know what the numbers have been on the Portal. But
Like I
that
said,
is a cheaper way to go.
The second half of the sentence was that they're focused on next gen, and this is the one big promise they kind of make. They're focused on delivering the largest technical leap ever seen in a hardware generation. And afterwards, again, follow-up interview, or follow-up statement or whatever, the information came out that Microsoft is investing in AI, just like everyone else is doing AI. And what the rumor is that this is artificial like frame generation. So if you buy a PC, you have in the graphics cards, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA, they have AI putting in like fake frames. So the machine is basically saying, oh, here's what the next frame would look like.
Yeah.
Because we know what previous frames would look like. So we just put in more frames in between the actual hardware creating the frames, and then we have AI creating the rest of the frames, and now you have more frames, and it's a smoother, higher frame rate experience, which is the end all be all for high-end gamers, and what they're looking for as far as performances is frames. So the idea is that in a future next-gen console, that they would not just rely on raw horsepower of the chips, but also the AI frame generation. So FSR is what it's called on the AMD side. I forget what it's called on the NVIDIA side, if I get that wrong. I mean, you've heard about it. So what do you think about that? Next gen, the largest technical leap. You think it's all smoke then?
I mean, I don't know that it's right or wrong. I just think it doesn't mean anything right now to a consumer. Like, that doesn't. I expect everyone to say we're going to have the best place
Marketing
to play.
speak.
Right?
And,
Yeah. I'm not saying that they're full of shit. I'm just saying that's not going to mean anything to me until I can see the goods.
I don't know why they didn't have to say this. they didn't have to put that line in there. I think it was a bold move considering this is like damage control a bit, right? This is like, let's set the record straight. And oh, by the way,
we're getting out of hardware. We're gonna have the best hardware ever.
It was odd, but it does have me excited because it tells me that there will be another Xbox. So that's like the takeaway. That was pretty much it from the notes that I took, from the recaps that I watched. I watched the whole thing, as it was happening, and then, or it was pre-recorded, but I watched it and I came away. Takeaway is that I feel more confident in the Xbox platform. I think they got smart people over there making decisions for reasons. And I don't think it was all doom like all the, rumor mill would have you believe. I think the future is still bright for Xbox. I think they're still in the game. It's just a different game, obviously, they're playing, like so many people have said.
I wish every platform did something like this, because we live in a time right now where everybody hyperanalyzes every statement. There's so much fake information and hyperbolic statements, and you take one kernel of truth and you blow it out into a whole bunch of hypotheses. And what they did is they just, like you said, they came out, they spoke to people that care, who are invested in their ecosystem, their property, their franchise future, and they just laid it out there. And yes, it was finely crafted PR speak, and it was all positive because it's coming, but it's coming from them. And they stepped out, they saw an issue, they saw that stuff was communicating not from them. They wanted to be the masters of their own message, and they came out and they owned it. And I wish that I wish Nintendo and PlayStation did this, basically. Like, not the damage control necessarily, but the fact that they come out and they speak to the people that care. I find it so fascinating that this industry has people that are so tuned in to the place that they play, that they want to know and they care about the health of the brand and things like that. That was one of the main things to me. I was so fascinated because I work with some guys that like play video games, but like they play Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. And if I gave them industry analysis and I spoke to them about like how we talk about stuff, they don't fucking know anything. They don't know about these rumors. They don't know about all these backdoor dealings and things that are coming under the surface. But there are people like us who are so tuned in that we care about that. And I thought this was really interesting that they took this time to zero in on those people and to own their messaging. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Xbox Business Update podcast. Phil definitely came out and he took the reins and he spoke what he wanted to talk about. And like you said, stay tuned till June. I mean, shit, that's only a few months away and we're going to be back in summer game bang season.
Time flies.
Time flies. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Mega Dads Live. That was a lot. We talked about a lot. But before we go, it is time for the caboose, where we give you a recommendation of something not gaming related that we have been enjoying that we think you might like. We want to share it with you. What do you got, Antonio?
So Valentine's happened. We're just sitting around. We're like, what should we do? Let's watch a nice rom-com or something like that. Just cuddle up. And we end up turning on a Netflix true crime documentary instead called Lover, Stalker, Killer. It just came out and it is a doozy.
Yeah.
So romantic. Yeah. It's one of these, it's a one-off. I think it's like an hour, 20 minutes, like story about deceit, intrigue, mystery, and it's pretty good. So if you are into true crime at all, check out on Netflix, Lover, Stalker, Killer is what it's called. And it's, one of the top things right now. It was a good watch. It's something interesting if you like mysteries and true crime.
I do like mysteries and true crime. I am a true crime podcast I love that. I love that shit, and it's so gross. It makes me feel icky and like I'm a bad person.
It's a good one. It's not too gruesome or anything like that. It's very like twists and turns and stuff. So check it out.
Well, in my caboose, I have something a little unconventional, and that is my son and I did a project. We built a model over the last weekend, and it is. This is why you watch the video version of Megadads Live on youtube.com/Megadads. This is the Horizon Forbidden West Thunderjaw. And we're going to have a video coming up on the YouTube channel about how we put this thing together. It is from the Good Smile Company. And this is a legit model. Like, this came in a bazillion